To start my presentation and to sort of frame this a little bit, I want to start by asking you a question. And I want you to think about a multi-stakeholder partnership that you are embarking on, or you have been involved in, or are currently involved in, and ask the question of, what research questions do you want answered? So perhaps there's a gap analysis that could help you in your next round of strategic planning. When thinking about your local settlement strategy, what questions, or rather answers, could help you flesh out that strategy? Are you curious about the local impact that your RIF or LIP has had? Are there outcomes that you want to measure in a really rigorous way? And again, I'll sort of plug the P2P conference that's happening in Toronto in early December. Or as Margie asked earlier today, could better performance measurement tools and strategies improve your implementation and alignment in your multi-stakeholder partnership? And so I want to ask the question of how researchers can help to answer these questions. And as we've seen today, to a very large extent, they already are. And there's been a theme around research within multi-stakeholder partnerships that's come up again and again today. So I do want to acknowledge the wonderful projects that are already happening. So when we think about multi-stakeholder partnerships, the idea is that these partnerships are greater than the sum of their parts. They truly are strategic alliances that are seeking to better understand and address really important settlement and integration issues. And I want to acknowledge the amazing work that the many settlement workers in the room are doing. And when we think about the role of research, practitioners, settlement workers bring so much to the table. You have a wealth of understanding and experience, and no one knows your clients better than you do. But I want to also suggest that researchers are really passionate about settlement and integration as well. And although they may look at it from a different lens, I think it's a lens that can really complement the lens that, for example, the settlement sector brings to the table. So what will a successful research collaboration look like? I think one of the things that we should strive for is an inclusive approach to research that brings together the viewpoints and ideas of many stakeholders in the community. So including the sector, multiple levels of government, other nonprofits that address these social issues, and also the academic perspective as well. I think ideally, when we think of research in multi-stakeholder partnerships, we should try to develop projects in which people are equal partners at the table, from the initial ideas through project implementation and execution to dissemination and the knowledge mobilization piece that Julie talked about as she introduced the panel. I think if we do this effectively, we can have some pretty amazing results. Kelly Pollock earlier today from Immigrant Employment Council of British Columbia spoke about how her organization established an evidence base during the strategic planning phase and really tried to understand immigrant employment through the perspective of employers. And in doing this, embarked on a research project and talked to 150 employers and conducted 15 focus groups. And that one of the unexpected byproducts of this process was also identifying champions. As another example, I'll talk briefly about the London Middlesex LIP. And what they did was, at the end of a 3-year strategic plan, an advisory team and a team of researchers got together to try to really assess the local impact that the LIP had during those 3 years. And so by developing a survey and really engaging in a broad reach to various organizations in London, Middlesex, they were able to answer important questions around to what extent the LIP had increased coordination of services, that organizations had changed their service delivery model in response to some of the strategic planning and activities of the LIP, and really what impact the LIP had had. And then the results from that were used to inform the development of the next strategic plan. So I think when we actually evaluate the effectiveness of these multi-stakeholder partnerships, for instance, evaluating the effectiveness of a LIP or a RIF over a certain time frame, it helps to support accountability. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about what I think are some of the features of developing a collaborative research team. I think one of the key things to think about is how you can bring together people that have a truly complementary skill set. So people who are going to view these research questions from a different angle, from a different lens. So this can include interdisciplinary teams, even academics from really diverse backgrounds, people with complementary research skills. So there's some folks that are excellent working with big data. Others excel with qualitative approaches, case study analysis. So bring these people together. I think we really want people who are passionate about translating research into improved practice, or what we call community engaged scholars. And there's a lot of those folks in this room today. Another thing to think about is people that have a proven track record of successfully collaborating in these multi-stakeholder partnerships. So researchers with a true desire to work with the sector and consult with them in a meaningful way. I also think when we, again, coming back to knowledge mobilization or dissemination, to think about having, involving the clients in the dissemination plan from the outset of the project. So I think when we foster these multi-stakeholder research, when researchers are involved in multi-stakeholder partnerships, there's many benefits that we can see, and only touch on a few today. So one is that we can find innovative ways to pool resources. Okay, and that has come up in other conversations today. So in addition to the sort of intangible resources that researchers can bring to the table, they also have tangible resources. So whether that's financial resources to make sure that participants are compensated fairly for their time and expertise, or budgets to hire talented graduate students, funds that can be used for the travel dissemination. Researchers are also highly skilled and experienced at submitting research funding proposals, which can be used to support these projects. For university affiliated researchers, we have to run everything through an ethics board. So I sit on the ethics board at Mount Royal University, and I think that adds some rigor to these projects, protects participants, and adds some institutional legitimacy, and it's very important. And for most university-affiliated researchers as well, mentoring of students is so important and integral to what we do. And I know that everyone in this room believes in the power of mentorship, and many of you are involved in mentoring programs for newcomers. So I think to train the next generation is really important. I'm not going to discuss challenges today, although I acknowledge them. I know that Chris and Milton will touch on that, and we'll spend some time on that during the table discussions. But I do have some thoughts there, and I'm happy to share them. So to close, I just want to say that although today I focused on highlighting the opportunities available for a partnered approach to research within the context of multi-stakeholder partnerships, I do want to mention that I don't think the role of researchers in these partnerships should be limited to research. So I think that researchers have been heavily involved in the ideas, in the strategic planning of many LIPs. Many multi-stakeholder partnerships include a researcher on their council, on their boards, in their working groups. And so when we think about the role of researchers, to not just limit them to research. Ultimately, I think This is about stakeholders with complementary strengths coming together to create meaningful impact by answering really important research questions. Thanks.